On today's episode, we discuss the latest space news, including the first photographs of snow and ice on Mars, NASA's reliance on SpaceX to rescue the stranded ISS crew, and Juno's near miss with Jupiter, which nearly erased its data. This week has a lot to cover, so let's get started. This holiday season, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory provided us with a glimpse of Martian winter, complete with frost, snowdrifts, and falling ice crystals. We've known for a long time that Mars has seasonal weather patterns, including the development of frost. NASA's Viking Landers obtained photographs of water frost developing around them in the 1970s, and the Phoenix lander confirmed the same in 2008. But Phoenix brought two new tools to the table that helped scrape the surface. During the Phoenix lander's operational winters, it used its scoop to disrupt the red Martian dust, showing water ice developing just beneath the regolith, something we are already accustomed to witnessing on Earth in the shape of frost layers. But that's not all. Phoenix's lidar sensor detected water ice crystals falling from the thin Martian atmosphere. Snow was falling on Mars. This type of data is a significant reason why scientists are confident about future explorers' chances of survival on Mars. Water ice is undeniably prevalent on Martian's surface. All we have to do is land in the correct spot. Winter on Mars is distinguished not just by small spots of water, frost, and snow, but also by something peculiar to the planet's severe cold: CO2 frost. Carbon dioxide freezes at minus 125.33 degrees Celsius, which is not conceivable on Earth. It's also more difficult to identify if you don't observe the frost from firsthand. This is due to the fact that CO2 does not melt into a liquid. It sublimates, converting immediately from a frozen solid to a gas. We have confirmed photographs of CO2 frost decorating the tops of the red Martian dunes, but CO2 frost is also distinguished by the unusual shapes and formations it leaves in the dust. Quote, "We observe spider-shaped structures, fans, geysers, all kinds of weird objects that are incredibly tough to comprehend, but that are beautiful and unique to Mars," says JPL Mars scientist Sylvain Picot. It is a little frightening that the surface of a planet we wish to occupy gets that cold, but it is fascinating to observe how CO2 frost changes the landscape. Unfortunately for snow sports fans, NASA notes that while Mars is quite cold, snow building on this relatively dry planet is never more than a few feet high and is largely concentrated on fairly flat portions of the surface. So, while we can experience a white Christmas, thanks to a Martian snowfall one day, we won't be able to ski or snowboard there unless we build our own Martian ski resort. SpaceX's ISS rescue. Moving on to our next topic, life aboard the International Space Station is gradually returning to normal. The new rollout solar panels are being installed, and some of the astronauts are preparing for a crew rotation in March. However, a catastrophic coolant leak in Soyuz capsule MS-22 in mid-December has caused NASA and Russia's Roscosmos to hunt for suggestions on how 3 of the existing occupants can return home. They've apparently begun seeking partners like SpaceX for assistance. NASA spokesperson Sandra Jones confirmed this in a statement to Reuters, saying, "We have asked SpaceX a few questions on their capability to return additional crew members on Dragon if necessary. But that is not our prime focus at this time," implying that NASA is treating any SpaceX option as a backup plan in case the MS-22 cannot be repaired or they require something faster than the next Soyuz flight. Because there is presently a SpaceX Dragon capsule docked at the station, the Endeavour ship that launched Crew 5 into orbit on October 5th. But that capsule is full and will return the 4 members of Crew 5 to Earth in March, around the time the Soyuz crew is slated to return. But there truly isn't anyone else to ask. There are a few other international partners that could provide a crew capsule, but none could clear one for flight before the next Soyuz launch in February. Even asking the Chinese for assistance with a modified Shenzhou, if possible, would likely take longer than SpaceX could deliver a new Dragon capsule to the ISS. If SpaceX is called in, they will almost certainly require a second Dragon. The Dragon capsule has a 4-person capacity, and the seats are designed for people wearing SpaceX suits. Even if they could fit the 3 MS-22 crew members in there, they would have to wear the Russian spacesuits they arrived in, which may not be a big deal, considering that the suits appear to take up nearly the same amount of space, but it is something to think about. The Soyuz M-22 crew consists of 2 Russian cosmonauts and 1 NASA astronaut. They arrived at the station on September 21st, November 21st, and are scheduled to return on March 28th of this year. However, on December 14th, their docked Soyuz capsule suffered instrument and assembly compartment damage and began leaking coolant into space. Fortunately, the leak appeared to have caused no harm to the station's components, although it did cause certain spacewalks to be postponed for a few days as NASA and Roscosmos worked on the issue. And there has been a considerable bit of inspection and research into what caused the damage. Work on the station was halted for a few days as external cameras and equipment on the Canadarm scanned the Soyuz. Despite the discovery of a small breach in the capsule's skin, no conclusive evidence has been discovered. It could have been triggered by debris or a micrometeoroid that was too small to trace, but that isn't the most important concern right now, because it isn't just a matter of repairing the capsule or flying another one up to replace it. Roscosmos has previously stated that the Soyuz MS-23 will be in orbit by February 19th to pick up the stranded team. The underlying issue is that with MS-22 out of function, the ISS occupants no longer have the capacity to fully evacuate if necessary. If anything, it demonstrates why NASA works so hard to provide redundancy into their systems, such as paying for the development of additional crew systems in case one fails. Being stranded in orbit without a lifeboat is not something NASA or Roscosmos want their people to experience. NASA and Roscosmos are set to release a report on their solution to this problem very soon, and Russia has declared that a decision on whether MS-22 is safe to use will be published this month at the absolute least. There was no immediate threat to the astronauts on board at the International Space Station until then. But Mark is concerned about the lifeline back home in case of an emergency, so let us hope that a solution is found soon. Juno has recovered from its Jupiter dive. After its 47th close flyby of our greatest gas giant Jupiter on December 14th, NASA's Juno spacecraft is recovering from a possible mission-ending interruption of its memory systems. The probe's operators, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, discovered they couldn't access Juno's memory immediately after its pass and were forced to reboot the vehicle's computer and put it in safe mode on December 17th while they investigated the problem. The ground team, however, was able to confirm that the data from the flyby was intact after a few days of work and began downloading it. As for what caused the disturbance, Juno was most likely influenced by Jupiter's magnetosphere, which is home to regions of extraordinarily powerful radiation, particularly near the orbit of Jupiter's moon Io, in which the Juno spacecraft has recently been working. That isn't to imply Juno doesn't spend time outside of Jupiter's radiation and belts. The magnetosphere of the gas giant is one of the greatest energy systems in the solar system, spanning nearly all the way to Saturn. However, when it comes to radiation, the solar-powered Juno is no lightweight. Juno's equipment compartments are strongly insulated in a container, and the tools like a microwave radiometer to monitor electromagnetic waves, a magnetometer to map the magnetic field, gravity detectors, plasma sensors, cameras, and more, it is evident that Juno was designed for this type of task. However, as previously said, Juno has dipped close to Jupiter 47 times now, and so much radiation will eventually affect even the most protected electronics. Fortunately, it appears that all that was required to resolve the issue was for Juno to fly clear of that area of Jupiter's orbit. But this experience highlights the importance of designing spacecraft bound for the Jovian system and beyond with heavy radiation shielding. Scientists believe Jupiter is the oldest planet in our solar system, and moons like Io are of interest to researchers hunting for clues of not only the origins of our solar system, but maybe even signs of life. Future missions, such as NASA's Europa Clipper and the International Space Station's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, which will launch in April 2023 and October 2024, will help us scan the outer solar system. Without probes like Juno taking these hits and gathering data for us, we'd be gambling on whether the protection these new probes have will be adequate. Juno, on the other hand, has been mostly retrieved and is continuing its mission to explore Jupiter and its moons. Juno, which was launched in August of 2021, took 5 years to reach the Jovian system and has been collecting data ever since. The mission was originally planned for 7 years, but as is typical with JPL vehicles, it has already been out there for 11 years, and has had its mission extended until September of 2025, which is presumably why no one at JPL appeared concerned when the first memory problem surfaced. Thank you so much for watching the video! Don't miss out on our latest uploads. If you wish to stay up to date with the latest space updates and discoveries, hit the subscribe button, like the video, and turn on all notifications to see more of our latest videos in the future.